Good morning, it's Tuesday, Parshas Emor Yid Aleph Iyah Tov Shin Pei Vuv on Edge. My name is Gershy Schwarcz and I'm pleased to be a host on Edge, April 28th, 2026.
Your daily report of the news of the last 24 hours, powered by Yiddish24, provided to you by The Click.
The US rejected Iran's offer to end the war. Iran was ironically chosen to manage UN talks about nuclear weapons. A researcher has found new evidence supporting the findings of Noach's Taiva, and Trump finally finds out that he belongs to the British royal family and wants to live in Buckingham Palace. How about that, my friends? Okay, but first, Protobyte, 347-354-1237. Your geniuses when it comes to software engineering, making an app, making a program for your business tied into your website. They are the experts. 347-354-1237. Don't say I didn't tell you. Okay, the US has rejected Iran's offer to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, a major shipping route for oil, for those of you who don't know. This is because Iran's offer only had two conditions. First, the US should lift its naval blockade, and second, the war should end. These both clearly put the US at a disadvantage. Iran also said that the nuclear talks should be delayed until the shipping issue is resolved. This is also a big no, because stopping Iran's nuclear activities is indeed the main goal. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that the US cannot accept a system where Iran controls the passage of ships. As always, President Trump is prepared to restart the war if talks collapse. Since the blockade received a no thank you from the US, an American warship called USS Rafael Peralta stopped an Iranian oil tanker called MT Stream, M/T Stream. The tanker was sailing towards an Iranian port where it was caught. Iran called this piracy and armed robbery on high seas, but the US continues to block ships from crossing the Strait of Hormuz. Though the US strictly monitors the waters, some ships still manage to pass through. For example, the Anak LNG tanker from UAE was able to cross the strait for the first time since the war began. The naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz is now 2 weeks old. Because of this, Iran's oil output is failing and gasoline shortages inside the country will happen soon. Analysts say that Iran's Supreme National Security Council's economy cannot survive more than 6 to 8 weeks of the blockade. In a post, Trump said that Iran has just informed the US that they are in a state of collapse. Iran wants Trump to open the Strait of Hormuz as soon as possible as they try to figure out their leadership situation. Though this is good news for the US, experts warn that fuel shortages could spread to several countries in 5 weeks as well. Right now, oil prices are around $109 a barrel. As the Iranian-US talks hit another roadblock, Russia welcomed Iran for a consultation. Iran Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi traveled to St. Petersburg, like I said yesterday, to Russia to ask for help with its peace talks with the US. During the meeting, Putin promised that Russia would support Iran. And Putin said, "For our part, we will do everything that serves your interests, the interests of all the people from Iran," and he means obviously the Iranian regime, not the region, "so that peace can be achieved as soon as possible." This is what he said, obviously. The rest of the world is also affected by the US-Iran war. China, Hengli Petrochemical in Dalian was caught buying Iranian oil, so the US Treasury gave them a sanction or a type of punishment for breaking agreements. France, the UK and Germany are announcing their views on the issue. They are either criticizing the war or calling for peace. Meanwhile, the Gulf Cooperation Council met in Jeddah to discuss Iranian attacks on Gulf states. The meeting will address damage to oil sites and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, obviously, and in fact, Bahrain has already started one of its strategies. It has already removed the citizenship of 69 people who supported Iranian attacks and foreign groups. Unfortunately, the United Arab Emirates is leaving OPEC, a group of countries that sell oil. This is a big change and may make the group weaker. Now the UAE says it now wants to have freedom about its own oil production and not follow the group's rules. It's not unfortunate actually, it was actually supported by Donald J. Trump. And it could bring gas prices lower. That's what my Chaver Moshe said from Jackson. At the 2026 UN Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty review, the conference, Iran was chosen as one of the 34 vice presidents. With this selection, it will help run the UN nuclear meeting. Unbelievable. However, the United States and the UAE objected, obviously. What a joke. A US representative said Iran's nomination is a bad insult to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Agreement. Under this agreement, countries would help stop the spread of nuclear weapons and keep the world safer. However, the US said Iran has already broken this agreement, and why are they to be chosen? Unbelievable. In Turkey, school children were filmed tearing American and Israeli flags on stage during a school ceremony. With the help of their teachers, they also ripped photos of President Donald J. Trump, and other children in attendance clapped while it all happened. This happened even though Turkey is an ally of the United States, through NATO, I believe, or on paper. Listen to my shmis with Machav and Moshe from Jackson, and you'll see why, what, when, where, what really is the relationship between the United States and Turkey, and what Turkey's agenda is. In northern Nigeria, it's in Yiddish, by the way, so on Yiddish24 you can find it, or 118 from the main menu. If you don't know where to find it, that's where you can find it. Okay, call Kol Mevaser 118, listen to it there, or you can watch it on Yiddish24, you can watch it on... Well, the English one, this one. Okay, in northern Nigeria, Islamic State terrorists killed at least... ISIS killed at least 29 people at a soccer field in Gayaku village. People had gathered at the field when the terrorists attacked the area and fired at people for several hours. The terrorists also burned homes during the late-night raid. They just massacred people. The recent failed assassination attempt on Trump has started a new political fight in Washington. Press Secretary Caroline Levitt said that the attack shows 11 years of left-wing politicians, commentators, and media attacking Trump. She called it a culture of hatred. It also emphasized the role of the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, which was temporarily shut down 70 days ago. The Senate passed a bill to fund most of DHS, but not ICE and Customs and Border Protection. These two agencies are part of a political fight about immigration, obviously, as you can imagine. Since the shutdown started, more than 1,100 TSA officers have left their jobs. DHS says the money may run out in a few weeks, according to Senate Majority Leader John Thune. Republicans are now working with the House to see if they can agree on changes. Meanwhile, former Iranian official Mohammad Javad Larijani said that the assassination attempt on Donald J. Trump was fake. He said Trump set up the assassination attempt to divert attention from U.S. failures in the region. Speaking of the assassination attempt, TV presenter Jimmy Kimmel made a joke at the wrong place at the wrong time. Before the assassination attempt, he said that Melania Trump looked like an expectant widow. By saying this, he made fun of her marriage and age difference with her husband Donald J. Trump. Little did he know that violent incident would happen just shortly after. Donald Trump and Melania Trump said that the joke was harmful and asked the TV company ABC to fire Kimmel for the second time. However, Kimmel defended himself and said he supports free speech and not violence. The story caused a big argument in the United States about comedy, politics, and free speech. Obviously, as you can imagine, you remember the time when Jimmy Kimmel was already let go after Kirk's murder, when he made a joke about that. The relationship between the United States and Canada is becoming unstable. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said that Canada's close trading ties with the US used to be strong, but now some of those ties are turning into weaknesses. He said the US has changed. That's their right, and we're responding. Aside from criticizing tax relief agreements, Mark Carney explained that some deals with the US aren't worth it anymore. So he means to be saying that he's cancelling them. Trump wants to upgrade America's old air traffic control system using Palantir Technologies, artificial intelligence, or AI. The Federal Aviation Administration has already made a plan to use one main cloud-based system. Now the government may use Palantir's system to track planes and guide flights safely through the sky. Might I remind you about AI, how fun and entertaining and great it could be, but at the same time there was an AI cursor that we mentioned here on the news that was also basically sold to some sort of company, and they used, the service is a self-coding service, which the AI codes for you, made a massive mistake. It wiped out a whole month of data from an app for rental companies, and they lost all their bookings and all the information, and it even apologized on their behalf, the AI agent that was working on behalf of the human being that was sleeping through the night when that happened. Israeli citizens are receiving threatening messages on WhatsApp. The pattern of these messages matches the methods of Iranian groups known as Handala, which aims to scare civilians. Though this is not a data stealing operation, it is still harmful because it scares people directly. Defense Minister Israel Katz met with UN Special Coordinator for Lebanon, Jenny Hennis, whatever her name is, and warned Hezbollah acting chief Naim Qassem that he is playing with fire. In other words, he's on the list of assassinations, and the fire will burn Hezbollah and all of Lebanon. Katz also warned Lebanon's president that failing to disarm Hezbollah puts the country at risk. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu talked with Trump last night via a phone call. Trump told him that the Lebanon ceasefire must remain. Netanyahu later met with his officials about this conversation. There was no timeline given for how long the ceasefire is expected to last, obviously, but they still have to fight Hezbollah because Hezbollah is using FVP drones, the same style of drones that Russia is using, and I guess they have to join forces with Ukraine to try and see if they can buy or maybe imitate or use the technology that fights those drones. The Israeli Air Force struck 2 targets, one after the other, in southern Lebanon. Strikes hit more than a dozen villages, including Bint Jabil in Kfar Jouz and Sidwikin in Bastilia, Bitsalia. Around the same time, airstrikes were reported in central Rafah in the southern strip of Gaza. Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir, Israel's chief of staff, warned senior officers that the failing discipline inside the army is a serious danger. Zamir used a few examples, including the smashing of a religious statue, wearing a questionable symbol, possible stealing in Lebanon, and the misuse of social media. Because of this, he ordered soldiers to stop using social networks to spread controversial messages and promote themselves. He said violations will lead to discipline. The Israeli government now has until July 1 to present its plan for the investigation of the failures around October 7th attacks. On this date, Hamas started the attacks that killed over 1,200 people on one day and captured over 200 hostages. As if you remember, that happened in Simchas Torah from the Gaza Strip. Both Hamas and civilians from Gaza were involved in this massacre. Israel's High Court of Justice gave the government about 2 more months to put together the basic plan and rules for the investigation. The deadline comes just months before the upcoming elections, obviously. Now, for those of you who remember, there was a very massive gap, at least 6 or more hours, that people had no communication, no connection, and there was no IAF that flew over to that area to help, or even drones. None of that was used to protect and to help and to investigate even the situation that was reported hours before. The Knesset plenum, it's called the Knesset plenum, which approves, I think it's called plenum, which approves Israel's laws, agreed that the government must pay employers who have reserve soldiers on staff. Their goal is to lessen the financial burden on businesses. This will also keep workers employed while they serve in the Army Reserve. Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich obviously said the fronts of the conflict rely heavily on a solid economic rear. In other words, they rely solidly on the economy, so they need money, they need the businesses to go on. Ra'em, an Arab-led political party, got me now, in Israel, says it wants a role in deciding who becomes the next prime minister. MK Walid Al-Walsha is urging his partners in the Arab parties to agree on one joint list. The goal is to help form a new government where Arab parties have political influence, and maybe they can become the prime ministers of Israel. So much for apartheid, huh? 7 people were killed and at least 85 were wounded when Pakistani missiles hit northeast Afghanistan on Monday. They're still at war, by the way. Afghan officials say the strikes hit a university and civilian homes in Kunar province. However, Pakistani officials denied the attack and called it a lie. This happened after recent peace talks between Afghanistan and Pakistan, and also that Pakistan is basically leading the talks for the US and Iran. A large fight broke out at a mass wedding in Dir al-Balagh in Gaza, with about 300 guests and 300 couples present. The fight started when tribes started throwing clashes over Hamas and the October 7th massacre that happened. So videos from the wedding show chairs flying across the hall and other things happening there. Hamas police were handling security at the event. What a joke. What a joke. All right, let's continue. A rare diary written Inside Auschwitz has arrived at the Auschwitz Museum in Poland. It was written by a man named Alfred Kantor, a Yid who survived the camp. Kantor was a painter from Prague. During the war, he was deported to two camps and then to Auschwitz, obviously. To one camp, then to another camp in Auschwitz. Inside Auschwitz, he found a pencil and used it to record what he saw. The diary has 127 pages, with both pictures and words. He documented the trains arriving, roll calls, gas chambers, and the crematoria where Jews, Yidden, Hashem Yinkedumah, were murdered. After the war, Kantor came to America and added more pages to the book. He passed away in 2003. His children have now given the diary to Auschwitz Museum, which will preserve it in a special exhibition. A 51-year-old Belzechusset from Borough Park was murdered in Colombia after he was robbed while traveling. What a sad story this is. He was identified as Reb Nuchem Yisroel Eber, Hashem Yimkum Domoy. He had been missing for several days now. His body was later found in a remote area of Colombia in a desecrated state. Jewish volunteers from Zaka are now involved, including the help from the local Jewish community in Colombia, helping bringing his body home for Kvira. Local authorities and community members are working with Zaka on the arrangements. What a sad story this is. I'm sorry to report this to you. 3 Orthodox Jewish children in Miami were attacked yesterday while they were riding electric scooters. They were robbed by another group of youths who took the scooter by force. There are no details regarding the suspects or the children's injury as of the day. We don't know that we know that the parents already filed a police report. A Toronto Judaica shop has been struck by a rock for the 3rd time. The latest attacks are causing concern because they happened in broad daylight. Police are investigating whether the shop is being targeted as part of the campaign against the Jewish community spaces now. In Yerushalayim HaKodesh, a Haredi man was arrested in his home at the Giloy neighborhood. It was because he refused to join the army. It was described as the first early arrest of its kind since the war began. This was obviously confirmed by organizations connected with Peleg Yerushalmi, who confirmed the arrest. Belgium's Archbishop has officially apologized for a deadly blood libel against the Jewish community from 750 years ago. The blood libel happened in 1370. Jews were accused of stealing What's the story? You know the story. They were accused of stealing bread from the cathedral and stabbing it with a knife, and the false claim said that the bread released blood. Bekitza, silly story and revenge. A Christian mob then attacked the Jews. Between 6 and 20 Yid Hashem Yinkedumah were murdered because of that, and the Jews of Brussels were expelled. Today, signs are hung on the historic cathedral of that church in Belgium. These signs contain the official apology to the Jewish community, all written in different languages. The bishop of Belgium and the chief rabbi of Belgium, Rabbi Avrum Jigi, both took part in the ceremony, obviously. In Germany, 5 members of Palestine Action went to court in Ulm. They are accused of damaging the office of Elbit Systems, which is an Israeli defense company. Police say they broke things in the building and they vandalized stuff there and shouted pro-Palestinian slogans. Ukraine officials called Israel's ambassador they summoned him. They called him they summoned him, excuse me, for an official complaint over a grain ship that arrived in Haifa. Israel, according to Ukraine, the grain was stolen by Russia and then brought to Israel by ship. That was the 2nd time already. We reported one already, and this is the 2nd time. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andrei Sybiha said that friendly Ukrainian-Israeli relations have the potential to benefit both countries, and Russia's illegal trade with stolen Ukrainian grain should not undermine them. He said that this has already happened before when another ship delivered stolen goods to Haifa. He says also he is now asking Israel not to accept these stolen items. Now, but Israel replied, the defense minister replied, please do not discuss these matters on social media first before discussing it with us. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer could be sent to Parliament's Privileges Committee because of his appointment of U.S. Ambassador what's his name again? I forgot his name. Anyway, I mentioned him a few times here. People say that he made a bad decision and misled the House of Commons. Starmer is facing a vote on Tuesday on whether the Parliament members should refer him for an investigation. As reported yesterday, Starmer said if this happens, he will simply tell his supporters to vote against the investigation. All right, let's talk about ChatGPT for a second. Florida is expanding a criminal investigation into OpenAI, which is the company that makes, ChatGPT. As you know already, ChatGPT was used by a man named Hisham Abugarbia, whatever this is his name, before violently killing Zamir Limon and Nahida Bristi, who were both 27-year-old students from Bangladesh. Attorney General James Uthmeier, announced that his office is checking if ChatGPT had a role in the two deaths. 3 days before the victims disappeared, the suspect asked ChatGPT about guns, vehicle identification, and how to determine a new iPhone's previous owner. He also asked what happens if a person put in a black garbage bag. If a person is put in a black garbage bag and thrown in a dumpster. Uthmeier says Monday if ChatGPT were a person, it would be facing charges for murder. Joby Aviation has finished the first test flights of its government-supported electric air taxi. Now, known as eVTOL, the air taxi can take off and land vertically like a helicopter, but it is fully electric, and it is quiet and produces no emissions. This could be the next way of next method between JFK airports and Manhattan or Brooklyn, whatever. The aircraft flew between JFK Airport and Manhattan heliports and took the same routes used by helicopter services like Blade. Through there, though there were pilots on board, the air taxi hasn't been tested with passengers yet. This is the first time an electric flying taxi has done point-to-point flights in New York City. The flights show how future air taxis may connect airports and the city. Joby also wants to start real passenger flights in the future in New York, Texas, and Florida, but the aircraft still needs approval from the FAA, which they say is not going to be so hard to do, before carrying any passengers. It's going to cost about $200, just like an Uber, they say. All right. Neujahrstage. A researcher named Andrew Jones said his team has found new evidence in Turkey. They found tunnels and signs of organic materials in a boat-shaped formation. This formation is called the Drupinir site, the Durupinar site. It is Turkey's something district near the border with Iran. If you want me to pronounce it, it's very hard. Let me try. It's Du'ubayazut. Okay? Again. Du'ubayazut. It's a district near the border with Iran. It's about 538 feet long and looks like a giant boat shaped in the ground. It was first noticed in 1948 and was later named after Turkish Army Captain Ilhan Durupina. Excuse me, my pronunciations aren't exactly up to par today. But yes, who studied it, this guy, during a NATO mapping mission in 1951. Jones said our new research has shown that there are tunnels about 4 meters down and about 2 meters high, going down to the center of the boat, and on the inside edge of the hull and also on the inside edge of the hull shape. We really believe that this is the layout, showing tunnels and also possible support beams and walls, which is that would suggest that it is a man-made object and not just a natural formation, because the soil looks different, and also it matches exactly, according to their calculations and the measurements, exactly to what it says in the Torah of how Neujahrstage was built. Now, my friends, this is a funny one. Trump has unofficially approved a name change for the Immigration and Customs Enforcement via Truth Social yesterday. A user suggestion on X went viral after he suggested, I want Trump to change ICE to NICE, N-I-C-E, National Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So the media has to say nice agents all day and every day. Trump responded, great idea, do it, in big caps. Well, it's a funny joke, obviously. The Daily Mail, I'm not sure if they're going to change. Maybe they are going to change it. You never know with Trump, anything can happen. The Daily Mail, a UK publication, says that Donald J. Trump and King Charles III may be distant cousins. You know, when two Yidden meet each other, they always find out that they're related somehow. I guess in this case, Trump is not really a Yid, but his son-in-law is, so he has some sort of connection. His daughter is. Researchers studied their family trees. They found that both men share the same ancestor from Scotland, a nobleman called Earl of Lennox. This means they could be 15th cousins, very distant family, obviously. On Truth Social, Trump said, wow, that's nice. I've always wanted to live in Buckingham Palace. It's also a coincidence that King Charles traveled to the US today to talk to Trump. So, That's our news roundup for today, my friends, and let's not forget YS Capital Group. Why? Because YS Capital Group, 718-831-2168. And as well, let's not forget, Arrive Express, 845-622-1111, 845-254-1111. My friends, have yourselves a wonderful day. We'll see each other tomorrow.
Your daily report of the news of the last 24 hours, powered by Yiddish24, provided to you by The Click.